Hey, everybody, it's Susan Linder. I'm your host of the Innovation Storytellers Show. And today we're going to take you back to your childhood. We're going to talk about all things innovation in the context of something that maybe many of us have since forgotten, which is the importance of play. Structured play, free form play. We're going to talk about why innovation and play go hand in hand. And 100% confessional, I struggle with factoring play into my day to day. And so I'm really eager to learn from my guests today. Carol Hill is a customer centric innovation strategy and product development leader with a very deep understanding of lean design thinking, agile, and scrum methodologies. She is the global learning director at the Lego Group with a proven track record of leading teams in complex organizations, embedding innovation programs, and in developing global innovative products to market during a digital transformation. Carol is a catalyst for change and practitioner of continuous improvement, regularly initiating and implementing new processes and ways of working that result in high performing teams. She leads a team of learning designers and content developers in embedding learning through play in products across the Learning Lego system. Carol is also a certified Lego Serious Play facilitator and is passionate about helping both children and adults learn and develop through play. Carol, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
It's funny, a girlfriend of mine who's also in the innovation space, I saw an update on her LinkedIn profile that said she is a certified Lego play specialist. And I was like, what the hell is that? And how do I get certified to play with Lego bricks? I was having flashbacks to my childhood and my sister and I like wrestling for the little figures to who was going to get the best figure for their respective project or what have you that we were each working on. And I thought, okay, I got to get closer to Lego. I need to understand what's happening and what we can all learn from Lego, a company that's a part of all of our childhoods to figure out how to do innovation better. So start us from the beginning, Carol. How did you even get into this space?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. How did I get here into innovation, into Lego, into all of these things?
Yeah.
I suppose the first thing is that I've always really been interested in learning. And I am a lifelong learner. And with that, I think when I was young, I never really knew what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to keep on learning. So the first thing I did when I graduated from university was think about what would be one of the most difficult things for me to do to put me in sort of an uncomfortable place. And I decided that would be going to China and learning some Chinese and being a minority and really trying to just experience life in a very different way from small town Minnesota, where I'm from. And so I went to China. I started teaching English. I kind of was a backpacker for time out, kind of jumped on all these different challenges, and eventually moved to the UK in my late 20s and got into educational publishing and product development. And eventually, I found myself in this place where I got to work with Tendai Vicky, who's now the associate partner for Strategizer.
Strategize.
Yeah, exactly. So,
You've been on the show twice, actually.
yeah,
Talking.
exactly. So, yes, and I ended up joining this innovation strategy team at Pearson in the corporate part of Pearson. And so, in that role, I was able to actually implement lean and design thinking, help people coach product developers, leaders, product managers on how to innovate, how to create an innovation funnel. And I got to, of course, learn from Tendai Vicky, who's a brilliant mentor of mine and author of Pirates in the Navy and Lean Product Lifecycle, a corporate startup, and a host of other blogs and all sorts. But yeah, that was when I think I really kind of landed on innovation. Because as you say, no one really kind of just get there in a very obvious way. So I kind of got there through education, learning, product development, and then landed in that space there. And that's kind of where my innovation journey, I guess, kind of really started properly.
Wow. What a fantastic start. And so tell us a little bit about the Lego curriculum, if you will. How does it work?
Yeah. So I work in the Lego education part of the Lego group. And so that part of Lego is looking at how to put Lego bricks into classrooms, into schools to help children learn through play. And so that is learning skills and learning knowledge. So it's a STEAM curriculum. And learning through play is really all around how do you create meaningful experiences? How do you ensure it's socially interactive? How do you ensure it's joyful? How do you ensure it's iterative and engaging? And those are kind of the core principles behind learning through play. At Live Education, that's what my team of learning designers and content developers work on alongside the rest of the product experience team. But when you look at it and you look at learning through play, there is no reason that cannot be done with adults in the boardroom in the same way that it's done with children in the classroom. Before I joined the Lego group and Lego Education, I asked the same question that you did. I stumbled upon Lego Serious Play and I thought, what is this? This looks amazing. I love facilitating. I love innovation. I love strategy. And this looks like something that I could do with my at work with different teams. And I actually emailed the Lego group and I just said, how do I become certified? How do I do this? And I think this is one of the interesting things about the Lego group is that customer support responded to me with this lovely email just saying, this is open source. We don't provide this ourselves. It was created for the Lego group by folks in the Lego group back in the 90s. But we don't offer these trainings. We don't offer the certification. We Googled, however, someone nearby who does. So they found someone for me in East London, Jonathan Bannister and Make Happy, his company, and put me in touch with someone who had no idea that he was probably on the list anywhere. But they put me in touch and I ended up getting certified. So it's open source. There's a lot of trainers out there. And it does the exact same thing that we do in the classrooms for children. It really just helps to have a different kind of conversation. And Lego is immediately engaging. We've all grown up with it in different ways.
So, what is the intention of what Lego Serious Play wants to teach us or wants to open us up to?
I think the beauty of Lego Serious Play is that it helps us to have conversations in a very different kind of way. So immediately, as soon as you kind of see Lego bricks, I've got a Lego duck here, people start to think, oh, okay, this is interesting. I think initially, actually, if we go back a few steps, and so someone who's done this for different companies as a consultant, you can go in and they kind of, oh, but this is quite serious. We've got a team of engineers or a team of scientists or a team of whoever. I don't know if they're going to want to play with Lego bricks. It's not about just playing with Lego bricks. It's just using the bricks as a tool as you would with anything else. It might be post-it notes. It could be anything, but it allows you to engage, ask questions, build models, talk about things, give people their own personal time for thinking. So it's really inclusive of different types of introverts, extroverts. Everybody gets their own time to think about their own answer. Everybody gets time to share. And it allows people to ask questions about the object as opposed to about the person. So it depersonalizes things, making people feel really safe about what they're talking about. So it's really, as I was saying before, about having a different kind of conversation that is playful and engaging and inclusive.
So, the scenario is, let's say, for example, we're working on a prototype, as so many of my lovely listeners are. We're working on a prototype at the moment. We want to really kick the tires of it, or we want to think about what it's capable of doing beyond what our feeble minds in the room, right, are able to conjure in this moment. How does Lego play a role in helping us think differently about our standard processes of we have a prototype, we have a 6-week sprint, we're going to have our scrum, we're going to have our agile stand-ups every Monday morning. Like, what's different when we
Yeah.
bring in Lego?
So I think the Lego Serious Play can be used in prototyping. It can also be used in thinking about strategy as well and thinking about just what is the big picture? What do we want to do for new ideas? Also for team development. So it can be used in all those different situations. When it comes to prototyping, I know we did a lot of rapid prototyping at Pearson when I worked at Pearson. In the Lego group, obviously there's prototyping going on all the time with Lego bricks because that's their product. But I think for some folks, when you start the prototyping phase, it can become the first thing you have to do is come up with ideas. And ideas can come from anywhere. But one of the biggest problems is that oftentimes it's the hippo effect, the highest paid person in the office. So how do we ensure that we are looking at as broadly as we can, including a diverse group of ideas with different people in the room? If you're going to use legacy display in this stage, would really just be thinking about that first step. What are those ideas? So when you're thinking about the question that you might be asking, I don't know what the situation might be, but let's say we need to solve a problem. What is the problem we're going to solve? What do we think is the biggest problem? You could even start there and ask about that. And you get everybody to grab some Lego bricks and you start building the answer to that question. And then you share that response after you've all thought about it. And then from there, you can start thinking about, is this the right problem to solve? And then once you have that right problem to solve, okay, what's the best way to solve this? And that could be your next question. And everyone goes and builds a model on how we solve that problem. And it might be the solution itself, or it might be features around the solution, or it might even be the process around it. So you could use it in lots of different ways. But I think that's the piece there, is that it allows everyone in the room to have a voice, even for those who might not feel that they can challenge. Maybe the boss might have the better idea, or my idea will never be listened to. Everybody's idea is listened to. And that's one of the key points of legacies.
So if my biggest challenge, right, if I think about building a prototype of something that's going to help me increase customer satisfaction, let's say on our current product, how do I use Legos to show what customer satisfaction looks like? I'm like, my less than creative brain, I guess, is going, I'm not a visual or spatial thinker. I'm a words girl.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm really challenged with thinking about this medium of being like, what do I do? Just make a
Yeah.
big sweet face. Like,
Well, I think the interesting piece around legacy, and it's not the answer for everything. I mean, let's not lie here. It's not the answer for everything, but
right.
to be honest, you can use it for lots of different things. So if you were to say, how do you solve, sorry, what was your question? What's for
For satisfaction. Yeah.
customer satisfaction? So the other piece I think about Lego Serious Play is quite interesting is that you don't have to be a master builder with Lego in order to create, you're not going to create this amazing thing with 1,000 different bricks that moves and all sorts. You don't need to do that. The point is that you kind of allow your hands to do the building for you and to do the thinking for you. So if you don't know what to build, we always say to people, just let your hands start looking at the bricks, touching the bricks, put them together and see what happens. And inevitably, something will happen. Sometimes people will literally just take one brick and then use it as a metaphor. And they will say, this brick represents gold or whatever it might be. And then the ideas that people ask questions. Okay, tell me why you think it means it represents gold. Okay, well, it represents gold because if we have customer satisfaction, we will make more money. Well, how are you going to make more money? And you ask these questions and it starts the conversation. So you can use it for metaphor, which is quite important, I think, when you're telling stories. But it's not just literally what the answer is. You're not going to build the model of customer satisfaction in real life, but it is going to start the conversation.
You used a word that I hadn't heard before, the acronym hippo for the highest paid person in the room. And I hadn't heard that before, but it really can be a hindrance, right? When we're thinking about expressing ourselves around our colleagues, are we afraid to speak up? Are we afraid to challenge an idea? Are we really able to? So Lego becomes the great equalizer for everyone in the room because that little brick could be the catalyst for something really far more significant.
Exactly.
And so is the desire to also create this kind of like popcorn effect where everybody like, oh, I have an idea. Wait, I have an idea. Wait, that's a really good idea. That's the holy grail of it all, right?
Exactly. And I think underneath all of these things, I think one of the key pieces of innovation that I'm quite interested and passionate about is how to build teams who have that psychological safety with each other, that trust each other, that feel empowered to challenge the status quo, to ask the questions that they're worried that nobody else has, how to actually trust their gut. And the things that are keeping them up at night, they're actually able to kind of say, hey, we've been working on this thing and actually, I just don't know if it's going to work. I think we need to test something more. I think Lego Serious Play is not the answer for everything, as I was saying, but using these kinds of tools allows for these conversations to happen and for people to get to know each other and to have a little bit of fun while they're doing it. It's kind of difficult to give people a bunch of Lego bricks, ask them to build something and talk about it, and for there not to be laughter or for there to be side conversations. This kind of comes alongside all of it. So it helps people to get to know each other. And I think it's brilliant for team building. And if you don't have that, if you don't have a safe space, if you don't have that psychological safety, you cannot move at speed with the team on innovation products.
Yeah. It's so funny. I'm blanking on the name of the book, but I'm going to look it up on my Audible while we're talking because I was just listening to how important play is in the context, especially of creativity.
Yeah.
And so many of us through the pandemic and have felt a sense of burnout that
Yes.
we hadn't experienced before, even if we love our jobs and
Yeah.
even if we want to bring our full selves to work every day. Sure. And the book is called Awaken Your Genius. And it's written by Ozan Vural. He's a Turkish author who wrote the bestseller Think Like a Rocket Scientist. And one of the things he says in the book is that in the 1950s, humor and laughter at work were considered unprofessional. And he goes on to extrapolate that the reason for that is laughter is cannot be forced. You can't make someone laugh, even no matter how good an actor you are, and probably most of us at work are not, and that it's also contagious. So it feels very dangerous and threatening to management sometimes when laughter is uncontrollable,
Mm.
right? It's one of those factors of behavior that we cannot control. And I was listening to a podcast called We Can Do Hard Things with Glennon Doyle, the author of Untamed. She interviewed Gloria Steinem and she said that two things: men are afraid that they will be laughed at, women are afraid that they will be killed. These are
Mm.
the two, we're getting a little ahead, but these are the two greatest fears that exist in our society among one another, a fear of humiliation. And so even the subject of laughter and women's rights and things like that have been underpinned by the ability to laugh, and how we bring that into the corporate space and how we evoke laughter in a way that helps all of us is so
Mm.
important. And how much we've evolved from that original thinking about what laughter is and what it can do and what play can do for all of us. But it's a true sense of freedom, don't you think?
Absolutely. And that's so interesting. I think just looking at that journey and also thinking about how that's probably still true as well. Like you pick your organizations that you want to work for. One of the reasons I chose to work at the Lego Group and Lego Education is because of the value they put on learning through play. You know, they just had their play day, the annual play day on
That
Friday.
look like? Yeah, what happens there, Carol?
It's a day for teams across the Lego group to get together and play. So it's kind of eating your own dog food, as we'd say, right? We believe in the power of play, so let's go and do it. So all sorts of interesting things, and it's just a time to have some fun together and do something different out of the office. And
Can you
it
give
ha-
us some examples though? Because I want my innovator audience to hear what are some things that, I mean, you say the word like, oh, I work for Lego. It's a very different experience sitting next to you on an airplane than like, oh, I work for the IRS. It's a very
well,
different
yes,
face just
yeah.
lights up having this conversation. So a company that's grounded in play, what do you do on your employee play day, as it would be called at some other?
So this year it was all around a detective theme, finding the green duck. Last year it was, I'm drawing blank on the name of the car from Back to the Future.
DeLorean, right?
Thank you. That would be the one. And some of the activities are things like, I mean, even playing Jenga, like life size Jenga, or building a badge with Lego bricks that you can put onto, that you can wear, making yo-yos, all sorts. I mean, so there are stations, you go around and you kind of do the different stations together as a group with your team, with your friends, whoever you kind of want. There's food, there's drinks, and it's just a really pleasant day that I think everybody really looks forward to. But I think besides Playday, also I work in the headquarters and the office is an amazing, inspirational place to work. And you often think about, or I do anyway, innovation teams who kind of have the foosball tables and things like that. And you can kind of see how I remember at one point kind of at Pearson emptying the closet of the Xbox and the different board games that people kind of actually never really played with and that whole hype. But then you kind of look at what can be done in an office space and how There are Lego bricks in every meeting room so that you can use them. They've got kind of facilitator workshop kit types of things with 6 bricks, different ideas of things you can do in your meetings. And then around the space, there's also kind of different setups with the Lego Foundation and the Braille bricks that they have, and different sand space where you can kind of go and have the peaceful kind of gardens, Japanese type of, I can't think of what they're called. Anyway, they've
Those
got all
Zen
different types. Exactly.
gardens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's miniature golf on the roof that you can play, all sorts. So you've got inspiration, you've got activities that you can do with your team. And then I think there's a lot of good rituals and different things that are happening within teams as well. I know one of the things that my team like to do is team hygge. So hygge is kind of like cozy time in Danish. So in our monthly meetings, we have team hygge and we do different things. It might be building kind of 3-in-1 sets together, or it might be going for a walk. It might be playing miniature golf or whatever it might be. But we have a little bit of time for that. We also do things like Church of Fail, which is
What's that?
talking about something you failed at recently,
Okay.
uh, and telling each other about how you coped with it, what you would do differently. And then everybody kind of claps and you kind of make it into kind of an event where people are laughing and having a good time, but also just flexing that muscle on how do you actually be okay with failing and sharing with people how you failed and turning it into something that doesn't feel so bad so that you can learn from each other and start to build that kind of psychological safety within the team. But it's playful. There's all these different things that you can do. I think it can be with Lego bricks, but it can also just be in different ways that you have conversations that aren't just sitting around a big meeting room and waiting for each person to have a go at responding to a question, or waiting for the boss to say, "This is a great idea. Do you all agree?" "Yes, we do." So yeah,
So, what's some advice, Carol, that you would give to chief innovation officers and their teams about how to incorporate serious play into their work? What would you suggest?
I think I think it would benefit any team to go and get at least one session with the Lego Serious Play facilitator, and then also reading up on it yourselves. I think it can be you don't need to have an ongoing facilitator. I think having one session to kind of understand it, and then thinking about how to actually use that throughout your sessions. How do you actually kind of take bits and pieces of it to ensure that your meetings have a playful element to it, whether it is, like I say, with Lego bricks, or it might be with something else. But it's so important to get your team engaged and feeling safe, listening to your team members, really listening and allowing people to kind of have a voice. And I think the more you do that, the more you will be able to get some really great ideas out there and move more swiftly to get whatever you're developing done.
Yeah. I can think about it. It's been a tough time in the innovation space. I've seen a lot of layoffs in this time and also a lot of rebuilding. A lot of companies said, we can't afford an innovation function during COVID. We're just trying to hit our quarterly numbers. And now innovation is coming back again in some circles. And this sounds like a great way to re-engage, especially if team members have left or new team members are coming on board. Is this a way to unify a team getting started too?
Absolutely. I know when I was working on building a team last year from 4 or 5 to 10 over the course of about 6 months. And once we kind of got there, we had an offsite. And we used Lego Serious Play to create our team contract, to talk about our strengths and our weaknesses, about our values, our goal, how we're going to move forward in the year. And it takes a while. It takes longer to have everybody build and then respond and share, but it's so much deeper and the understanding is there, and actually really landing it and getting to know each other and being able to flesh out the ideas is immeasurable. So I think it takes longer to do learning through play or purposeful play at work, but it is more impactful.
Yeah. Well, given the level of employee engagement in at least here in the United States right now, we know we need something deeper,
Yeah.
especially when we're working with remote teams, that we have to work harder to keep people engaged.
Yeah.
And there was a fascinating study that came out from Gallup just yesterday that showed that $8.8 trillion has been lost due to lack of employee engagement.
Yeah.
So if you think it's costing you a lot because this might take a little bit longer, this is the state of the global workplace. So a total of 9% of global GDP has been lost due to lack of employee engagement.
It's
So,
incredible. It's incredible.
yeah.
It's one of those things I think where sometimes you have to slow down a little bit to speed up. And I think that investing in people is always the right thing to do. Investing in team development and ensuring that people have that base, that foundational piece of, as I was saying, psychological safety so that they can actually move forward together as a team, trust each other, become a unit and really collaborate together well is something that's well worth investing in.
And it strikes me that it could also be a way to start conversations about stress.
Mm,
The other part of that global Gallup study is that employee engagement is actually up. Don't get too excited. It's up 8% to a whopping 23%. 23% of the global workforce feels engaged.
yeah,
Mm. But what's more important is that we're not addressing the stress of workers, and that play is a great place to one, alleviate stress, and two, talk about it.
exactly. And this was actually something that I did quite a lot during COVID was as a kind of consultant, did Lego series play remotely for teams who needed to kind of connect because they'd been working through COVID. So first of all, the stress of COVID and the unknown of what was going to happen with our world, our families, our lives, our jobs, but also just didn't have the time and space to connect with each other over the water cooler or having lunch together. So Lego Serious Play, we used that in a number of ways. At that point, we being me and some of my other facilitator colleagues before Lego, the Lego group. And it was really interesting because I think the questions that we asked were things like just simply, how are you feeling, first of all? Build a model of how you're feeling. And then, of course, letting everybody kind of share some of the things that people had to say. And then thinking about things like, what do you like about COVID? What is something you want to bring with you to the workplace after we get out of isolation and we go back into the offices? And that was quite enlightening. And what are things that we don't really want to do again when we go back into the office? So it was really thinking about transformation from that point of view of just how do you want to behave in the workplace after COVID? And how do you deal with those stresses? And then that well being piece as well of just talking to each other and having real conversations that go a bit deeper. Using Lego is a really easy way to do that. And I was saying before, when you build a model with Lego bricks, and then you're talking about it, you're not talking about yourself, you're talking about this model. So how are you feeling? Well, I built, you could even say, I built this duck and it makes me feel sad. It's rainy, it's dark, it's what you could create a whole story around that. And then people start saying, oh, okay, so why did you create the tail that looked like it's weighing at the end? Or how come the beak is pointed downwards? And it becomes around the model and the person can talk about themselves, but it's actually about the model. So it helps people to actually say more than they might if you just ask the question, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm okay.
Oh, the Feinsteins, they're the worst. Everything's
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
This is such a great conversation. Carol, thank you so much for having it with us. So before we leave, I'm going to ask you the three questions I ask all innovators who come on the show. Number one is, what do you think is the greatest innovation of all time?
Oh, well, okay. The greatest innovation of all time. Coming from a publishing background, I'm just going to say paper. I'm going to go way old school because I still love a good old book. I've got a Kindle, but I love reading a proper book. So that was the first invention that I think I'm going to highlight.
So we're going to head all the way back to like papyrus. We're going to get all the way back to the paper.
All the way.
Right. And not even necessarily the printing press, which I got a lot of Gutenberg fans on this show, but we can't do anything without the paper. Fair enough. Okay. If you had the opportunity to join any innovation team in history, which team would you like to be on?
Oh my goodness. I think right now I'd love to be on like just not going back very far at all, but just thinking about Chat GPT. I would love to be right in the middle of that and knowing how that's all working. It's fascinating and it's going to change our lives. It's already changing people's lives. I think my husband was sending out resumes and cover letters. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but using Chat GPT as an inspiration. Obviously,
Sure, why not?
but I mean, it's changing everything.
I just got back from Vienna and I had it plan my 4-day itinerary with the coolest hot new bars, make me reservations at restaurants, and the sites I absolutely had to see, and the sites that are underground that people don't talk about. So I had a 4-day itinerary planned in an hour.
Amazing.
Yeah. I kept
Yeah.
to refine
Very.
it, but it's
But
good.
then
It's great.
yeah.
It also planned my Galentine's Day dinner for my girlfriends, planned the menu. It's kind of basic. I had to up the ante a little bit. The favors that I gave my guests, as well as the really cool girls only playlist for my iPod
Brilliant.
is. And my last question is, what's something that really annoys you or something that's really amazing that you wish were invented or that you wish would be solved by someone else in the world?
Oh gosh. Gosh, that's a big one. That's a big
Mm.
question. I would maybe say maybe this is a little bit dark, but I would love to solve for cancer and ensuring that we can actually identify it as early as possible and then prevent it from happening before it actually causes problems.
Amen. Amen. And I'm sure, right, one out of six women in America just getting breast cancer alone would be right there with you,
Yeah.
wanting to see that happen. So thank you for that. Really important that we think about I asked my 95-year-old mom what is the greatest invention of all time. She tells me dishwasher detergent
Mm.
pods, not the
Yes.
dishwasher, the pods.
The pods. Yes.
That is the greatest invention of all time. For her, she just wants reliability in her life at this stage.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Well, Carol Hill, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Where can people get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is the best place. I'm there. Get in touch if you ever want to chat again. Yeah.
Fantastic. Carol Hill from Lego and all the ways that Lego teaches us from when we are kids to even when we're grown ups about the importance of play. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.